From 1979 through 1981, the residents of Atlanta, Georgia, specifically Fulton County area, were in a state of panic, fear, and anger as their children began to turn up missing. Atlanta is a pretty violent town, so it wasn't unlikely. The murder rate was pretty high as the neighborhoods was very poor, so police just assumed it was business as usual, probably more unsolved murders. But when it got to over a dozen children, and yes, children, then they realized, hey, we think we have a problem here. We better start doing some investigating and get off our lazy asses. So they finally realized, hey guys, maybe we need to call in the FBI for some help. Because they had no clue. They didn't put nothing together. FBI profilers began to profile, and they already assumed and knew it was a serial killer because the children were all turning up dead. All of them by strangulation. All of them by the hands of one human being. And the police said, no way, there's no way one man can do this. But young FBI agents already knew by what they saw and what they were investigating that this could only be one man. And when the local police heard this idea, mainly the ones that sit on their asses and just eat donuts all day by the looks of this guy, said, no way. And the FBI said there's no way it's a black man doing this. Or, I'm sorry, there's no way a white man could be doing these crimes. Because the residents and the police all thought it was a white man, specifically Ku Klux Klan, because all the children had one thing in common. They were all African American. But they had to eliminate suspects, so they did start calling in some Ku Klux Klan members to investigate them a little bit. And had to bring them in so they can rule them out, basically to prove the police wrong and to prove the mayor wrong, because the mayor of the town said, no way a black man could kill these children, he is white. Even the commissioner of the town got involved, and his thoughts and opinions was it's got to be Ku Klux Klan members because they are known for one thing: killing black people. But not specifically black children. I'm sure some of them have, but I mean, come on. I mean, let's get real here. The police says there's no way a white man could come in these black neighborhoods without being unnoticed. I'm telling you, Mayor, the suspect is black. The suspect is black. As more and more children became murder victims and started disappearing, getting close to 20, the mothers and residents began to really start being strict, really keeping an eye, always telling their children, you guys need to stay inside. Whatever you do, please just stay inside. Out of every victim that was murdered, only 2 turned up to have some type of physical evidence, which was a couple fibers from a carpet in a car or a house. Like a weird style carpet, kind of rare. But that's all they had. But they didn't want to leak it out, and somehow it got to these idiot news media, and they leaked out that fibers had been found on some of the victims. So that tipped off the killer, and the FBI agent knew he was going to change tactics. And then, lo and behold, more children began turning up dead and missing, but instead of being found in the wooded areas, they began turning up in rivers. So FBI profiles suggested one thing and one thing only. We have to stake out the rivers, mainly every bridge in all the surrounding counties and all the area. Few-mile radius, which would require lots and lots of manpower, as they needed agents under the bridge and agents on top of the bridge to investigate any suspicious car that would come by. So when FBI came to the police with their plan, they kind of had to pull teeth to get them to go with this plan. Because at first the police said, no, we can't use the manpower. We don't want to do it. And FBI basically said, hey, police officers, we don't have nothing else. We have no suspects. Murdered children is right up to 25. Do we gotta wait till it gets to an even 30? Do you got any better ideas, basically? So they finally listened, and they started coming up with a plan. They were going to stake out the bridges and all the local areas. So they finally began the stakeout. The police said, okay, fellas, 4 weeks only. And after 4 weeks, nothing turned up at all. Guys were working overtime. Local police said, this is stupid. I'm sick of sitting in my car all night. Half of them are falling asleep. And they're just getting, starting to get annoyed, aggravated. And FBI says, please, more time. And police said 2 more weeks. Even the commissioner and mayor, they said, look, we're basically out of money, guys. We can't afford to keep paying people overtime. We're out of money. We can't go longer than 2 weeks. 2 weeks, that's it. So they gave them 2 more weeks. And I shit you people not, on the last day, even within the last hours, this was it. They had about 2 hours left, and it was going to be the last time that they were going to have their men stake out bridges. So about 3 a.m., one of our rookie police officers radioed in, I heard a big splash. I just heard a splash. So when they radioed in to the men up top of the bridge, they seen a suspicious car, but all the man said was he heard the splash. Nobody seen this man throw anything off the bridge, but they heard a big splash. And the FBI agents on top of the bridge seen the suspicious vehicle with his lights off, moving slowly, and then they came back on. The man in the vehicle crossed the bridge, turned around in a coal sack, and started coming back across the bridge. And that's when the FBI agents decided to pull him over and suspect that he was being very, very suspicious. The man that was crossing the bridge at 3 a.m. was Wayne Williams. And they asked him what he was doing, if he had thrown something in the river. And he said, no, sir. And the police asked, what are you doing out here at 3 in the morning, Wayne? And he said, oh, I was going on a business call. This woman, Cheryl Williams, gave me a phone number. Mr. Wayne Williams was acting very suspicious as police, with their flashlights, were checking the river. They began searching his vehicle, and they've seen a suspicious piece of rope tied at both ends with a pair of gloves next to it. And when they asked Mr. Wayne Williams why that rope was in the car, he said, I don't know, sir. This is my uncle's vehicle. I don't know what's in it. And they asked Mr. Williams, did you throw something off the bridge? Were you just throwing out garbage? Mr. Williams said, what do you mean, sir? Like a kid? He was being very, very suspicious, and when he said that, and this is about the missing kids, police said, how do you know? Well, how did you know why we were here? And basically, Mr. Williams is being very cocky, saying everybody knows. You get pulled over by the FBI in here, it's got to be about the missing kids. Nevertheless, he was making police very, very suspicious at this point. Police began questioning him about this Cheryl Williams and why he was going to make a business call at 3 a.m. And he said, money never sleeps, sir. And FBI asked him, where's the phone number, Wayne? And Wayne produced a phone number, and the FBI agents told somebody else to go call and check it. When the police called the number, it was disconnected. It was basically a fake number, and they asked Mr. Williams again, why are you lying to us? He said, well, she must have gave me a number that was wrong, sir. I didn't lie. Police repeatedly asked, "Do you have an address for this Cheryl Williams? Do you have an address?" Mr. Williams said, "Oh, that's why I always get a phone number, sir. I don't have the address." Which even made no more sense than he was making earlier when they first pulled him over. When police radioed in the boss telling him about their suspicions, the boss basically said, "Well, did you find a body?" And they said no. They said, "No body, no crime. You need to let this man go. You need to let him go. You didn't find a body. There is no crime." Agents were very frustrated with this suggestion as they wanted to really put pressure on him for more questioning, but the higher-ups unfortunately said, "We have to let him go." FBI agents did not believe one word that came out of this man's mouth, but there was nothing they can do. And when he asked the officer who searched the car, which was another young rookie, he said, "Did you retrieve the rope and the gloves?" And the officer said, "No, sir, you didn't tell me to." This really, FBI agents really became irate. I mean, this whole thing all around, just lazy, sloppy police in this town. And it's sad to say that they were young black children, and back then, I hate to say it, police really didn't look at it serious as they would if they were white. I'm a white man. I'm not racist. That's just wrong. A human being is a human being, guys. Straight up, man. Especially when it's a child. I don't give a shit what color their skin is. They're children, for Christ's sake, people. You know, and that's what this FBI agent was, trying to drill in these stupid police's head for a year, over a year at least. So they needed to find that body. They just needed, the next thing, find this body. So about a day and a half later, a body sure enough turned up about a half mile from where that young police officer heard that splash. So when the body turned up, they said, "It's time to go give Mr. Wayne Williams a visit." So they came to his house to have another talk with the man. And there was a bunch more and more holes in his story, as, the rope and gloves mysteriously disappeared. When he asked Mr. Williams if he had a dog, because they knew that there was a dog, because there was dog hairs also found on the bodies, but that was not really said. Mr. Williams replied, "No, sir, I do not have a dog." At this point, FBI agents were beyond suspicious, but they really had nothing. And before they left, one of the FBI agents asked Mr. Williams if he can use the restroom. He said, "Sure, right down the hall." And, FBI agent's gonna be nosy and look around. He opened the other room, and oh, voila, there was a dog. Imagine that, everybody. Imagine that. When the agent said, "Wayne, I thought you said you didn't have a dog," he said, "I don't, sir. That's my dad's dog." Which is, just simple little lies, lies that don't need to be a lie. This man was, there were just so many holes in the story. But they had nothing. They had nothing on him. The body has not turned up yet at this point. Because, they haven't found it yet. I know I said earlier, they did find the body in a day and a half, but they questioned him right before the body was found anyway. But, regardless, nevertheless, they had nothing really to hold Wayne Williams for. They had nothing on this man. Well, the police did get the call. The body had been found, and he was identified as 27-year-old Nathaniel Cobb, whose body was nude, found in the river a half mile from where the FBI man heard the splash. In Fulton County, specifically the Jackson Bridge. Police were sort of stumped again because it wasn't a child, it was a 27-year-old man, and he was twice the size as Mr. Wayne Williams. So, people began to speculate, could this man really have dragged a man twice his size and tossed him off the bridge without being noticed when there was FBI agents all around the area? So they began to start 24-hour surveillance on Mr. Williams, and it didn't last long with them being undetected, as Mr. Williams continued to pass out them flyers, was, specifically looking for talent, ages 10 to 16. That's what the flyers said. So basically, this made police even more, especially FBI agents, more and more suspicious. And the way Mr. Williams was acting was pretty cocky, as he bought them food, came over to the car, and said, "Hey, I thought you guys might be hungry." So, about 8 hours after being detected, police continued the 24-hour surveillance, and Williams knew they were watching him. So they began questioning people and neighbors around. And a neighbor came outside, kind of pissed off about all the police around, said, that fucking Wayne. Police said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "It's got to be about him. That boy's always into something. He was, I work nights. He was out there burning shit at 6 o'clock in the morning the other day." They're like, "Burning something, really?" He goes, "Yeah." They go, "What was he burning, sir?" He said, "I don't know, but he was burning shit in the backyard." With this new evidence and more details, they were finally approved by the local police commissioner, mayor, whoever has to approve, to go in and search Mr. Williams' house. Finally. They said, "You better let us search his house now before all the evidence is destroyed." By the time they started searching, they were just pissed. Like I said, this whole story is fucked up, mind-boggling. I'm still not sure if Wayne killed all these children. I'm really not. I'm really up in the air. I'm like 50-50 on this. It's funny. It's a little funny, comical. The higher up agent asked the younger agent, "I need a hair sample from that dog." As they continued to search, they found a book, a weird book. And they also, voila, there's the green carpet, the mysterious green fibers that were found on 2 of the bodies. They found the green carpet, and they knew they were onto something here. So they needed to compare the fibers with the fibers that were found on the bodies, and not sure how long that took. I knew back in them days, early 80s, that took at least a couple of weeks, even to match fibers up. Don't ask me how or why. So they brought Mr. Williams in the office because they needed to get some of his pube hair samples as well. And police said that he was a very arrogant man, and he agreed to a lie detector and declined a lawyer. And this is the book that they found in his room, along with the green fibers, the green carpet. And back then, lie detectors, they were 50-50. A man could be lying and pass it. It's all about nerves and heartbeat. And people are trained to beat them. So FBI agents said there's really no use giving this guy this lie detector because he's going to pass it, and then we're going to have less probable cause to arrest this man. But the head chief said, "No, we're giving him the lie detector test anyway." And what do you know? Mr. Williams passed the lie detector test. So it was time for a face-to-face interrogation with Mr. Williams. When they asked him about all the dates that these children were kidnapped, he could not account for most of them, and the ones that he could account on the days on what he was doing, nobody was with him. Wayne always seemed to be alone, so nobody could verify if he was telling the truth on where he was or not, which even raised more eyebrows. At this point, police, FBI agents, everybody was stumped, as they had nothing but circumstantial evidence. Yes, it was all circumstantial evidence. And, they had nothing. But they were allowed to continue to surveil the 24-hour surveillance on Mr. Williams. At this point, they had to release Mr. Williams, and he was getting more and more cocky as the hours went by. Once again, don't know how this shit leaks, but police didn't want the press to know about this man. They didn't want his name to get released to the public, but it did anyway. And when the public seen this man, specifically parents of the children, they didn't believe that Mr. Williams could commit these crimes, period. FBI agents were explaining to the mothers around the surrounding areas of the missing children, this guy fits the description. We know it's him. And basically the mother said all you guys wanted to do was arrest another black man, put another black man in prison. So it's getting close to a month that went by since he was the number one suspect and only suspect at this point. And the mothers, people in the area said, if this guy's a suspect, why haven't you guys arrested him yet? So the media, police, everybody just sat and surrounded Mr. Williams' house on a daily basis, 24/7. Mr. Williams was so cocky, he even began passing his flyers out to the local media and invited the media in his house to interview him if they needed to, if they wanted to. He was just such a cocky individual. But at the same time, Mr. Williams was getting frustrated because his life was starting to get turned upside down as, there was them people that assumed it was him as well in the area. I would think the media and everybody just standing in front of your house, whether you did do it or didn't, that would frustrate any man or any woman. Mr. Williams left his house and drove straight to the mayor's house with media, police, FBI agents all following him. He was screaming at the mayor, saying, "Look what you've done, Mayor. You're framing an innocent man, Mayor." Now, the mayor was shocked and stunned, and everybody was stunned that Mr. Williams had pulled this little act, because this is the first time anybody had seen Mr. Wayne Williams mad and angry. Other than this day, he was very polite, just always very polite. So this was a new side to Mr. Williams that nobody has seen yet. So you could say Mr. Williams was very irate that day. He said, "Look what you've done, look what you've done, look what my life, look what I have to live with. Thanks a lot, Mayor, look what you've done." Now, that day when Mr. Williams left, they wanted to watch his dad as well. They said, an FBI called in and said, "Hey, watch Mr. Williams' father too. Somebody sit back and make sure you watch his dad." So, one of the FBI agents followed Mr. Wayne Williams' father during when Mr. Williams was on his way to the mayor's office. His father was headed somewhere else. When they followed Mr. Williams' father, he went to this place right here. If not sure, I'm sure you guys could see that private charter service. So, you all already know what this is coming up to, what they're trying here. Mr. Williams left that day and went to the mayor's office, people believe, as a decoy, so his father could come here and see about charter services on a private plane. After Mr. Williams' father, I'm gonna quit saying his father. His name's Homer. After Homer Williams left, FBI agent came into this building and said, "Hey, what was that man just doing in here?" And the woman in the front desk said, "Well, he was asking about a private jet or a private plane. He wanted to charter a plane, and he said he was probably going to come back to see me. He wanted to charter a plane." That's what she said.
A ticket? No.
Specifically South America. That's what he was asking these women about. He wanted to charter a plane to South America. When he informed these other agents that Mr. Williams did that as a decoy, they said, "What do you mean?" He said his father went on the other side of town and was asking about chartering a plane to South America. And the FBI agent said, "Well, you need to call the prosecutor because our number one suspect has just become a flight risk." And they said, "We may not have enough to arrest him, but we might have, this is going to help a lot." So the next day, everybody's still sitting at Mr. Williams' house, watching media, police, dozens and dozens of people in the area, just watching and watching, waiting for something. At this point, they still got circumstantial evidence. And out of nowhere, here comes the local police. And on June 21st, 1981, he was finally arrested. After a month-long 24-hour surveillance from the time they heard the splash, they finally arrested him. After a 2-year-long investigation, ended up being 29 children in all, and I believe 2 adults that were murdered in that 2-year span. FBI agents were a little confused, so they went to their boss and said, what happened? How did he get arrested all of a sudden? The fibers had came back through as a match. The carpet fibers had matched 2 victims, but strangely, the 2 victims were both adult males, 21 and 27 years old. All the mothers of the town, of the missing children and murdered children, to this day, lots of them do not believe Wayne Williams did this, as he was only charged with the 2 murders of Nathaniel Carter and Wayne Cobb, 21 and 27 years old. To this day, a lot of people believe that he did not murder any of the children, or murder anybody to that matter. And it's been a little bit over 40 years to this day. He has still claimed his innocence, and still does to this very day. And to this very day, nobody has been convicted for any of the murdered 29 children to this day, 40 years later. So basically, it's ironic, it's bittersweet. I just can't believe that, the strange thing is, though, when he was apprehended finally, the murders did abruptly stop. At the time, they considered it to be the highest profile case in the country solved. They didn't have no evidence, but they said Mr. Williams definitely committed at least 24 of the murdered children. At least 24 of them were by his hands, and they were all strangled. But there was never any real proof that Mr. Williams did commit these murders of these children. The young FBI agent was upset because he felt that there was still no closure for the mothers of the children, and he really didn't want to leave. He was just upset that Mr. Williams was not charged with the murders of the children. But all that mattered was they got the man. They got the man that's done it. Whether they proved it or not, they could prove 2 murders. Even if they were the adult males, they had their man. That's what all they were saying. They have their man. That's all that matters. As of 2021, not 2019, as to this day, 2021, I am sorry, people, 27 murdered children have not been prosecuted. None of the remaining 27 cases have not been prosecuted. So 29 in all, 27 children and 2 adults. I'm sorry, I fucked up a few times. But it's sad. It's sad and bittersweet. So what'd you everybody think? Did he do it? Did he not do it? Did he look capable? He's only like a 5'6", 150-pound man. I don't know if that's exactly correct. I'm trying to be correct here, but I'm pretty close. He wasn't a big man. He did not look like a killer to me. He was never proven, and to this day, none of them murdered children's. Whoever murdered them, it's not solved. There's assumptions that it was Wayne, but none of them kids. That's what people don't realize. All it says is Mr. Williams, the Atlanta monster, known for killing all them kids. Well, people, to this day, he's in prison for 2 murders of a 21-year-old and a 27-year-old man. Not any of the children. That's what people seem to forget. And there's people out there with their, conspiracy theories. And even the mothers, lots of mothers say they feel it in their heart. They know Wayne Williams did not murder their children. They just feel it in their heart, But there was also a sketch. I didn't pull up the sketch for you guys, but somebody's seen him talking to a child one day or whatever, that the child ended up missing later on, and he was last seen talking to a man, and the description, whoever sketched it, did match Wayne Williams' face. But like I said, all they really had on him is circumstantial evidence, and it was the first time in United States history that a man was convicted on circumstantial evidence with carpet fibers. It was a rare carpet, though. It was rare. But that was the first time in history that they used forensic carpet fibers to convict somebody. That's never happened before. And there was even more of an outcry because, you know, a lot of people just said, well, they got what they wanted. They wanted it to be a black man, basically. Because if it was a white man that got convicted, they said the city of Atlanta would have burned down. They would have just destroyed the whole city. There would have been riots if they had arrested a white man for killing all these young black children. That's what they believe. My thoughts. What do I believe? Like I said, guys, I'm 50-50. I don't know. I don't know if he did it. You could check it out. There's plenty of documentaries on it. There's even a younger boy that talked to him and found him kind of weird and got away one day. And he swears that Wayne Williams is the man that he was talking to, that he felt a bad vibe from. He ran from him or something, went to another apartment. He was trying to get him to get in his car or something like that. But he says that it was Wayne Williams. He says you never forget a face. You could see the interview with the man, the boy that got away from him. I think he was 10 or 11 at the time. Says it was Wayne. You know, I don't know. Half the city, half and half. You know, the majority of the mothers don't believe it's Wayne. And I feel bad because none of them mothers ever got closure, guys. And it's just a shame, and I don't think they ever will. It's been over 40 years since this has happened. But the odd thing is the murders did stop. There was no more kidnappings when Wayne Williams got arrested. So, you guys tell me, man. I don't know anymore. Have a good day, everybody.